Plankton Paranoia? Oh my god. This episode of SpongeBob SquarePants sucks. Here are the reasons why I hate this episode in my opinion. The episode begins at the Krusty Krab, where Mr. Krabs is preparing SpongeBob and Squidward for an event that happens every day, Plankton trying to steal the Krabby Patty secret formula. Mr. Krabs orders SpongeBob to guard the front door, while Squidward decides to take a nap. 3 hours pass, and Plankton never shows up. SpongeBob passes out from exhaustion and drops his mop on Squidward's face, waking him up. Mr. Krabs questions why Plankton has not shown up yet, and thinks that the door is stuck. He oils the door, while also getting rid of some customers who are blocking his path. When Plankton still does not show up, Mr. Krabs gets an idea. The next scene shows that Mr. Krabs has put the formula out in plain sight with a giant arrow pointing to it. Once the formula disappears, Mr. Krabs assumes it was Plankton who stole it and puts the restaurant on lockdown. SpongeBob starts to block off all the exits, until everyone realizes that Patrick actually had the secret formula bottle, thinking it was ketchup. It is now the end of the day, and SpongeBob and Squidward are about to go home, but Mr. Krabs stops them, fearing that Plankton is still up to something. SpongeBob and Squidward leave the Krusty Krab anyway, while Mr. Krabs stays in the restaurant overnight. The next morning, SpongeBob and Squidward arrive for work and assume that Mr. Krabs eventually went to his house. They are proven wrong, however, when Mr. Krabs reveals himself, camouflaged into the floor like a chameleon. In the next scene, a customer is about to order something off of the menu, but Mr. Krabs attacks the customer, thinking he is Plankton wearing a disguise. The customer angrily leaves the restaurant, saying he will never set foot in the establishment again. Just then, Mr. Krabs notices Mrs. Puff is about to leave with a Krabby Patty, but Mr. Krabs yanks her back with a hook, suspecting her to be sneaking a patty off to Plankton. Mrs. Puff denies this, saying that it was just a to-go order, but Mr. Krabs does not believe her. Squidward sarcastically asks if Mr. Krabs will ban pockets, to which he actually does. He uses a reef blower to suck up all of the customers' clothes and puts them in barrels. Mr. Krabs then stops Old Man Walker from leaving the Krusty Krab, as he notices that he is hiding Krabby Patties under his hat. Old Man Walker exclaims that he just wanted some for later, but Mr. Krabs does not believe him, and bans him from the restaurant. Mr. Krabs also bans a baby and its mother from the restaurant when he suspects that they are working for Plankton. Slowly losing his mind, Mr. Krabs starts banning people from the restaurant left and right, until there are no customers left. Mr. Krabs then starts boarding up the Krusty Krab. SpongeBob worries, stating that he does not think Plankton will be coming. Just then, they hear a knocking at the door, and hear a voice asking for a Krabby Patty. It is just Sandy though, but Mr. Krabs thinks she is Plankton wearing a squirrel disguise, and bans her from the restaurant too. Mr. Krabs starts to go completely insane, walking on the ceiling and foaming at the mouth. SpongeBob questions Mr. Krabs' behavior and whispers to Squidward that maybe they should postpone their plans they had for that night. Mr. Krabs overhears this, and thinks that SpongeBob and Squidward are both working for Plankton, banning both of his employees from the Krusty Krab. Later that night, Mr. Krabs is shown to have completely lost it. He has the restaurant boarded up, booby traps set up everywhere, and is hiding under the register boat with the formula tied to his neck while sweating uncontrollably. Just then, Mr. Krabs thinks he hears Plankton's voice, but it turns out to be a Chum Bucket ad on the Krusty Krab's TV. He turns the TV off, only to see a shadow on the wall that he thinks is Plankton, but it turns out to be just a cup. At this point, Mr. Krabs starts to hallucinate. He sees the cup turn into Plankton, and suddenly, red and green demon planktons start appearing everywhere. Mr. Krabs tries to escape, but ends up running into a giant demonic plankton with devil horns. Mr. Krabs screams and runs into the bathroom, splashing water on his face to try and reclaim his sanity. He looks at himself in the mirror, and hallucinates his eyeballs turning into planktons. Mr. Krabs freaks out, and sprints over to the Krusty Krab's crow's nest to catch his breath. Suddenly, he notices something happening across the street. SpongeBob, Squidward, Patrick, Sandy, Mrs. Puff, Old Man Jenkins, and even his own daughter Pearl are sneaking into the chum bucket, which makes Mr. Krabs think that everyone he cares about is working for Plankton. Mr. Krabs starts bawling his face off as he goes back into the Krusty Krab. Suddenly, a knock is heard at the Krusty Krab's front door. It is SpongeBob, who is obviously reading off of a note card, who tells Mr. Krabs that he needs to come with him to the chum bucket, because Plankton has kidnapped Squidward. Mr. Krabs suspects this is part of Plankton's evil plot, and tells SpongeBob he will be right out. Mr. Krabs heads into the kitchen and starts laughing to himself while making deadly Krabby Patties by putting traps, such as spikes and fireworks, inside of them. After he finishes, he and SpongeBob head over to the chum bucket. Once there, they see that Squidward is tied to a chair, as Plankton reveals himself. He then presses a button on a remote, and a bunch of decorations and confetti are revealed. Mr. Krabs is confused at first, but Plankton and SpongeBob explain that today is the anniversary of the first ever time that Plankton tried to steal the Krabby Patty secret formula, so they wanted to throw a surprise party for Mr. Krabs. Mr. Krabs is touched, apologizes for his actions, and hugs SpongeBob. Mr. Krabs then notices everyone else about to eat the deadly Krabby Patties he left on the counter. He starts to panic and takes everyone's Krabby Patties away, succumbing to their traps. The Krabby Patties start to spark loudly, zip up into the sky while Mr. Krabs is still holding them, and explode into fireworks, injuring Mr. Krabs. In the next scene, everyone happily leaves to go home, except for Squidward, who is still tied up, and SpongeBob asks Mr. Krabs if he enjoyed the party. Inside the chum bucket, Plankton notices that Mr. Krabs left the secret formula behind, and takes the piece of paper out, only for a stick of dynamite to be revealed underneath. The chum bucket violently explodes, and Mr. Krabs exclaims that he enjoyed the party very much, as the episode ends. And that's how the episode goes. I don't know who likes or hates this episode. So I'm gonna leave it be. Screw Plankton Paranoia. And screw Squid Baby. Survival of the Idiots is 7,253,663 times better than Plankton Paranoia. End of rant.